Republicans are keeping the government shut down. They're hurting Marylanders, and there does not seem to be an end in sight. Fortunately, in studio with us today is the person who sees every dollar in and every dollar out on Maryland and understands the impact before folks like me and you are able to see what's really going on. So joining us today is Comptroller Brooke Lierman. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you are a two-time guest, and unfortunately, we call on you every time things are terrible. Because as the money person, as the chief economist here in the state, you see things that others don't see for quite some time. So last time we had you was tariffs, and that seems to be going great. And I think everything you said in that has come true.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk a little bit of shutdown, but we're also going to talk some other things. We're going to talk re-election. We're going to talk just some of the political intrigues of the day. And then we are going to talk a little bit about the Orioles, because I know you are an Orioles fan and have thoughts. And so we're going to definitely get into the Orioles as well. So first thing, let's talk shutdown and just help Marylanders understand like what is going on. So just from the top, can we just level set, like, what does the comptroller do when it comes to like understanding the impacts of a shutdown, just so folks understand where you're coming from with this?
Sure. So, yeah, and I'll take maybe one step higher from that and just say, my sort of personal perspective on this shutdown is that one party in America believes that Americans deserve affordable health care. And right now, the other party, Republicans, do not. And I don't think it is really worth it to get into who's to blame for the shutdown.
It is the Republicans.
But if it's the Democrats, like, own it. Like, we think it's so important that Americans have access to health care and to affordable health care that we need Republicans to get on board with that. And I think that Americans and Marylanders understand the need to have affordable health care. They do not want to go back to where we were before. And part of the reason is because of something that I see as comptroller every day, which is the increase of cost of living in this nation. And of course, Maryland is not immune to that, right? You have the effect of tariffs, which are essentially a tax on all of us, on the goods that we buy. We see healthcare costs rising. We know food prices are rising. And the shutdown, of course, is sort of this whole other existential crisis for our federal government, but feels deeply personal here in Maryland, where not only have we already lost 15,000 jobs from the federal government for Marylanders, but now many people are not being paid, right? I was at BWI the other day saying hi to our air traffic controllers and TSA agents, not getting a paycheck now. Other folks that aren't releasing reports, of course, Bureau of Labor Statistics didn't release their latest report, and more. And that inhibits all of our ability to do our job, to provide the numbers that we need to for businesses, for government, and more.
And that 15,000, that is before this latest shutdown layoffs. That's before the people who took the buyout actually
all the people who took the buyout get counted. And yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting. So as a member of the Board of Revenue Estimates, we see, and I see in our agency, the data on revenues, sales tax, personal income tax, corporate income tax every month. And things have been surprisingly steady, I will say, since they are meeting our expectations of the expectations we set in March. But that was all before the shutdown, and it was before the September numbers. September, of course, is when the fork in the road kicks in, right? And people could take the buyout. So we don't know what effect that or this will have in the long run on our economy yet.
So I do want to talk about the healthcare piece, because you nailed it. Like, Democrats are fighting for Americans' healthcare.
Yeah.
The part that I'm really annoyed, I'm seeing a lot of trolls online as someone who sees the back end of several social media accounts.
Yeah.
Is this idea that, like, if the Affordable Care Act is so affordable, why do you need subsidies? And it's ignoring that Republicans have spent 15 years dismantling piece by piece by piece that made it accessible, affordable. Luckily, there's still protections for pre-existing conditions and for young people on their parents' insurance. But have you seen a Republican healthcare plan, and what do you think of their plan?
I have never seen a Republican health care plan. Of course, I think that is part of the reason that John McCain made his famous no vote to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. And because there is no plan, right? And healthcare costs are responsible for too many bankruptcies of American families, and healthcare costs I wish one thing that we could all agree on in America that we needed to get a better handle on, that nobody should go into debt, into foreclosure, into bankruptcy because they had cancer, because they broke a bone, because their kid had leukemia, right? And we don't want to be that nation, and we don't have to be. But the Affordable Care Act only works when our healthcare system is working well with it, and when we are providing these subsidies to make sure that people can afford it. And, we have there are other challenges in our healthcare system. Thank goodness now Medicare can negotiate over drug prices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, President Biden, for making sure that we don't have to be at the whims of pharmaceutical companies and how much they want to charge, that we can be a good steward of taxpayer dollars and negotiate that. But it's really important that, even just in the OBBBA that was just passed, right? They are
That the one big beautiful bill.
Yes, they are again cutting healthcare access, right? Through cutting Medicaid. And so these are all huge challenges where one party really does want to make sure folks can access affordable healthcare and the other party does not.
So let's talk shutdown impact on Maryland. I know you talked about some of the things that you've seen from the Bureau of Revenue estimates and elsewhere, but I believe you and I think the governor and a few others had a press conference last week, the week when it first started, of just like what this impact financially could be.
Yep.
Can you talk to the audience a little bit of like what's the financial impact on Maryland
Sure.
during a shutdown?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is, and hello, bond rating agencies, hello. The good news is usually workers get paid, right? And so in the long run, shutdowns have not impacted our economy or our revenues, right? But in the short run, it does impact us, right? We are losing money every day because people are not spending in the same way. The withholding taxes are not being remitted to us from the federal government. And so we do see a loss in revenues over the short term. If this follows the past examples and people do get paid and an inordinate number of people are not illegally fired, then it will not have a long-term effect on us, fortunately. But all of that is TBD, right? The only thing certain right now seems to be uncertainty.
Yeah. You said you talked to air traffic controllers the other day. I know you're traveling around the state. Like, what are you hearing from people as you show up, especially some of these federal workers who are just, to use the term, like in purgatory, it feels like.
Yeah, they really are. They're in limbo. Right?
In limbo. It's probably a better term.
They're really, yeah, no, they're really in limbo. And I think, it's a frustrating place to be, right? It's a scary and frustrating place. Scary because you don't know when your next paycheck is going to come. There is no sign that this is going to end anytime soon. And frustrating because it just feels like, can't we just get this done, right? Why can't we just agree that everybody should have affordable health care, sign the bill, get it done, reopen government? Like, why is that such a hard thing to ask to be done? And so I do think people understand the larger picture and what's at stake here. But at the same time, it hurts and it's scary for people.
So there's a lot of other current events that I want to talk to you about. A couple of things. I know you published an op-ed recently. Tax processing season is official, not tax processing, but tax return season is officially over. Yeah. But I want to talk first politics because that's what people tune in for. They want to hear some of this. So beyond just like the shutdown, what are the things that are just like taking up your day? Right now it's just shut down. I know. Let's say
let it shut down.
Let's rewind 3 weeks. What's the type of stuff from just general politics that seem to be taking up your day and what you're hearing most about?
Sure. So we talk a lot about the federal government's impact on Marylanders, right? On Marylanders, on our economy, on our revenues. So spending a lot of time digging in on that. Also good governance and modernization, right? My agency, one of the things that I'm really excited about is that we are modernizing my agency, right? We want to be, we are transforming our agency really in and out into a modern, efficient, and people-first agency where you can both get the data, policymakers can get the data they need on housing affordability or climate change or the importance of immigration to our economy, and also where people can claim their unclaimed property and get their tax returns or their historic tax credits more easily, and everything in between. So, all of that is immensely important. It's an amazing job. I love doing it. And I'm really excited about the progress that we've made in standing up, an Office of Taxpayer Advocate, new modern systems, the data and the research we're doing. We're about to release a report on housing and migration and affordability. So there's a lot of great work going on on the Board of Public Works, really centering our minority business enterprises and making sure that our money is getting best value and is being spent in line with our values, right? Staying here in Maryland, spending our money on Maryland businesses. So all of this work and more is what's keeping me busy all the time.
And we're recording on the 14th. I think most of you hopefully will be listening on the 15th here, but I thought I saw a flyer that your policy team was doing some cool interactive initiative today. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, we are on the 16th releasing so on the 16th, we're releasing our brand new research report on housing. So Secretary Jake Day and I are sitting down for a discussion about housing in the state. Then we'll have folks like Michael Sanderson and others coming in to talk about housing in the state as
breaking news. I think this is the first time we broke news on this podcast.
So we're excited about that. We are also forthcoming is, we released a big report on the impact of the federal government on Maryland's economy. The big number is $150 billion was what it was in 2024. We are now following that up with a tool online that folks will be able to use to do scenario planning. Like, what if the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center actually does leave Maryland? What would that mean economically for Montgomery County, for Prince George's County? So we're building this tool with the University of Maryland to allow people, to give people more ability to plan.
When's that goal coming online? Not to put too much pressure on your team.
Within the next month, it'll be out. Yeah.
Very cool. Sorry to the team if I put a specific date on that.
You're fine.
Let's get a little more controversial here. We're seeing some Senate primaries play out where it seems like there's a legitimate path for Democrats to take back the Senate, not just the House. And we're going to talk redistricting in a second, but the Senate. What's your take on what's happening in Michigan or Maine and some of these other places where it seems like DC is picking favorites and there's some controversial primaries happening?
Yeah, look, I think primaries are great. I support robust primary system. I think it gives, as somebody who's been through many primaries, I think it helps you get to know your voters as a candidate. It helps you become a better candidate. You really hone your skills debating, and you clarify why you are running and what's so important to you to undertake this. And it gives voters the opportunity to test out each other, right? To see who they really want. And so I think primaries are a really important process to go through for voters and for candidates. And, I wouldn't want to put my thumb on the scale either way.
So are you annoyed that there seems to be some thumbs being put on the scale?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know the point of that. Like, let's let the voters decide, right? At the end of the day, that's the point of elections, is to let voters decide. We have no business picking who Maine's next senator should be.
We're hearing a lot of people being annoyed by that.
Yeah. And so I think it's just really important to let candidates prove themselves and prove their ability to win an election.
And so you are a campaign junkie in a good way, as I'm sure many of the people watching are. Is there a campaign or a moment in time that if you could go back to and witness, that would be your like go-to place?
Well, I experienced a lot of fun campaigns. No, you don't. So like I was on Howard Dean, I was on, which was really, just was mind-blowing to watch.
We're not
like
there
the new
scream though.
I was not in Iowa. I was in Wisconsin at that point. I think if I got to go back and watch any original race, I would go back and watch Paul Wellstone's first U.S. Senate race. I was a field organizer on his last Senate race when he died, but in his first Senate race, right, he was this college professor who took on a long-time incumbent, Rudy Boschwitz, outspent 8-1. And still managed to win. And just the energy behind his campaign, the spirit of hope and positivity that he brought to people, the can-do attitude, is like so inspiring still for me to watch. And his old Senate ads are amazing and fun too.
And what's his saying that I know you quote a lot?
Yes, he used to say sort of what is my core value, which is we all do better when we all do better.
It's a good one. I like that one. You're running for re-election.
I am running for re-election.
How's that going?
It's great. When I first launched my campaign, the first time around, which you remember, it was the middle of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of my launch events were online, right? And so when we started talking about launching this time around, and folks were like, well, where do you want to do your kickoff event? I was like, well, I want to do my kickoff event all over, right? I don't want to do one kickoff event. I want to go to where people are. So we are doing 12 kickoff events around the state. I'm running for 4 more years, so we're calling it my 4 More Tour. And you can go to brookelierman.com/4more to see the list of our stops. It's like, we're a band traveling around the state.
You have a bunch of stops too, isn't it?
Bunch of stops. We've done Baltimore City, Prince George's County, and Southern Maryland so far. I've got Talbot County, Mountain, Maryland, and Cumberland, Harford County. We're getting all over Montgomery, and we'll end in Annapolis, which seems fitting, state capital. And so, but it's going really well. We've had great turnout. I think people are eager to both think about and understand how our agency is both pushing back against the Trump administration. At the same time, we're building a better institution for Marylanders, and they're excited to be together and do something positive.
Are you hearing that a lot? Is that the number one question of just what can you do to push back against the federal government?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it in my stump speech and when I'm speaking, here is what we're doing to build our agency so it works better for Marylanders, but also at the same time, how we are pushing back against Trump. We are saying, look, we're putting out the report about how important immigrants are to Maryland while he's obviously, trying to round people up. We are making sure we're bringing down the hammer on businesses who are misclassifying workers and trying to bust unions while he is favoring the richest and biggest employers, right? We're trying to make institutions work and build transparency in government while he's canceling data reports and making government more corrupt. So we are trying to be the antidote and show how in our sphere the work that we can do.
So seems to be a lot of energy. It's good that people are asking about how to push back on Trump.
Yeah.
That is, I think, the number one question that we're getting at our talkback tour too is what is this specific person doing? What is this specific person? Right. So the comptroller is not immune from that, it seems like.
But no, and we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because, I always remind people each of us has to do what we can with what we have where we are. And it's different to every person, to every office, and it may even change for you day to day, right?
And it seems a little unique that you have a good partnership with the Attorney General, and that they seem to be relying on your data a bit in their lawsuits.
Totally. In the data, I've filed several declarations to support their lawsuits. In the report we put out, they've used that data to help file lawsuits to get standing, and that's what we want, right? We have to be working together to do this.
We're going to talk a little more about what you just said, but how do people get involved if they want to, just because I don't want to forget that part.
Yeah, well, if people would like to get involved, they can just very easily go to brookelierman.com. You can find a link to my 4 More Tour there. You can find a link to volunteer. We'd love to have you join us for a parade, for door knocking, for join us at one of our kickoff events, volunteer in some other way. Really excited to see folks around the state.
You talked about when people fake numbers or don't publish numbers. I have an op-ed here from you, from the New Mexico treasurer, and also the Connecticut treasurer. So folks that are watching, you can see it. We'll also link it in the show notes. It's titled, "When the Numbers Play Politics, We All Pay." Why did you want to write this? Why team up with these folks?
Yeah. So one of the things I've been proud to do is really work and form more partnerships with Democratic state comptrollers and state treasurers across the country.
And they're mostly treasurers, right? Comptrollers.
Yeah. There are a couple of comptrollers Illinois and Connecticut. But
New York with Brad Lander.
New York City. Yep. And Brad Lander in New York City, who's great. So we have all started, talking more and meeting more about how we can work together to push back against some of what's happening at the federal level. And here, one of the things that comes up time and time again is just the importance of data integrity and data availability, right? It's not just about releasing numbers. It's about building transparency, building confidence through accessible and consistent reporting. And when that doesn't happen, it undermines business decisions. It undermines bond ratings and bonding decisions. It undermines our ability to manage our pension systems effectively. And that has an adverse impact, not just on our belief in the ability of government to do this, but on the actual work itself.
And this was inspired by the Trump administration canceling their jobs report.
So it was really inspired when they fired the former head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because they didn't like the numbers that BLS reported. Right, I think that was a serious warning shot about the reliability of the data that's going to come. And then, of course, trying to fire Lisa Cook from the Fed, the Federal Reserve Board. These institutions have really withstood decades of time or withstood decades, no matter the president, right? No matter the party, they may be producing numbers that the current president didn't really like, but past presidents did not fire them because they knew the numbers were so important. And actually, I think, what we should be doing when the numbers don't look good is figuring out why they don't look good so we can do things differently and better. But if you don't have the data to begin with, then you're just operating, in a black hole.
And speaking of data, one thing that your office is doing that I think I saw a Maryland Matters piece about this was you recently announced that nearly 99,000 low-income Marylanders did not claim either the child tax credit or the earned income tax credit. Like, that's a staggering number.
Yeah, a lot of families.
What's going on there? And I think I read in the article that you have an initiative to try and close that gap.
Yeah.
So, like, what's going on there? How do you actually close it?
No, so it's a big deal. So the Earned Income Tax Credit, largest anti-poverty government program we run, that the state runs.
And Maryland's one of the largest in the nation.
We have a really generous state EITC, and in a time of decreasing economic mobility, the state EITC is really something that can improve a family's chances of moving into the middle class. But it doesn't help if you don't claim it, right? And the average EITC is $1,100, which, can help you. You can sign up for community college classes. You could pay for camp. You could, buy a used car to get to a better job, down payment on an apartment in a better space.
Get it from under a pile of bills.
Debt, right? Hugely important. But we found that so many Marylanders who qualify for it aren't claiming it. So we have launched an initiative called the Earned It campaign. We've been partnering with the Governor's Office of Children and Families, as well as other agencies, to really start. Last year, we did a sort of a test run to send out notices, to do social media. We are using now the information that we gleaned from last year's campaign to inform this next year's campaign, to do even more outreach, to increase uptake. And so I'm really excited about this partnership that we have with some of our fellow agencies in the governor's office and with local management boards and others to really spread the word, the cash campaign and others to spread the word so folks claim money that is theirs.
So essentially there's 99,000 Marylanders who left a couple $1,000s on the table.
On the table. And we want them to take that money and use it to good ends, right? They will use it for whatever they need.
Yeah.
And then it comes back into the economy, right? And it also helps them do better.
And to be clear, it is money that was budgeted. It was expected. It was all accounted for. They just didn't claim it.
Exactly.
This one might feel like a layup, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Yeah. I saw another report that your tax processing time electronically is under 3 days and paper is approximately 17 days, which is a year-over-year improvement. What's making the improvements?
Sure.
Is that true?
Yeah.
And if so, what's making the improvement?
It is true. It is true, but there's also room for improvement, right? So it is true, though. We have streamlined a lot of our processes. We're also really encouraging people to pay online. So a couple 100,000 Marylanders file electronically, but then send us a check in the mail, there's so much check fraud these days that can be really dangerous. So we've created new ways for people to pay online. You don't have to use a credit card and pay a fee. You can use it, you can use ACH. We're even going to do a pay by check online option soon, pay by online check. But I think, we've got a well-trained team. So we really are improving our systems, but we still have a ways to go. And I know that. And next summer actually is our huge new transition to our new personal tax platform. So we've one more year, one more tax season in our old COBOL-based tax system. And then we are going to bid it adieu and move into a brand new cloud-based online tax system that, we know will be a big change for folks, but is really important for the future stability of our revenue system.
Can I ask you one more question before we talk O's?
Sure.
That some may say is controversial. I don't think it is, but redistricting. What's your thoughts on what's going on around the country, and should Maryland consider redistricting?
I would just say you don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Fair enough. I think I know exactly what that means. That is a great answer. You are a baseball fan. You also control your own Twitter account, if I'm not mistaken. And oftentimes during O's games, you have thoughts. Or before O's games, after O's games. I believe at some press conferences around the O's, you had some thoughts on pitching in particular. So we don't have a GM right now.
Right.
Would you take the job if they offered? And 2, let's say you're the GM.
Yeah.
You have between now and when pitchers and catchers report, which it's still the playoffs. The Brewers are in the playoffs as a Wisconsinite. Yeah. Go Brewers. What are you doing as GM? What are you telling team ownership? How to get the O's to where we want? And are you doing we're winning next year? Or are you building long term?
Look, I think it's important to win next year. I do. I think we've been saying we're building for the long term for a long time. And at some point, the long term has to be now, right? And so I think it's really important to win next year and to show Marylanders that that the club means business, right? That it is ready to invest in the pitching staff that we need, in the batting coaches that we need, in whoever it is. I don't feel like the team is playing to its full potential right now. And we've got some fantastic players who I am so excited about. And my kids are so excited about, and I live 2 blocks from Camden Yards, so we go to a lot of games. But yeah, I mean, look, I support the Orioles, so I would never hire me to work for them because I know nothing. I do not know. I leave that to them, and I take my job.
I think you're underselling. I think some of the commentary we've seen online is pretty well informed.
But I am excited to see what they do in this offseason, and I think this is a really important offseason for the Orioles to make some changes and to bring in some people to get the job done next year.
Do you want to see a public pronouncement of we're in it to win it, or do you just actions speak louder than words?
Actions speak louder than words. We will know if they're in it to win it by the moves they make this offseason.
That's fair. Do you ever play fantasy sports?
I don't.
Ever?
I leave it. My husband plays all the fantasy sports. I follow him.
Could you be convinced to play fantasy football? Not fantasy baseball, way too much.
When am I going to do that?
That's fair. Any other thoughts on the O's or any other sports teams you want to share before we close out?
No, I am excited for basketball season to start. But in my mind, basketball season means South Baltimore basketball, where my Gates play. So,
are you a Wizards fan?
I grew up a Wizards fan. I went to a ton of games at the Cap Center and then the Verizon Center, and really loved the Wizards growing up. I have not followed professional basketball as much. I follow, I love the WNBA. Great to see Vegas win again. I love college basketball. So go Terps, go Women Terps. Love the Lady Terps. We went to a bunch of games last year. So we'll definitely be going to see our Terps again this year. But I mean, college basketball is the best. It's so fun.
Anything else you want to share that I did not ask about before we do our housekeeping for closeout?
No, really excited to have this conversation and about the work that you're doing, and thanks for keeping it going.
Well, Comptroller Lierman, thank you for being here. For those of you tuning in, a couple of notes to make sure you don't forget is we launched our Contest Every Seat program. We need you to run for office, and if you're not going to run for office, we need you to refer a friend who's going to run for office. You know a lot of great people in your network who might just need that little extra push. you can be that person that gives them the push. So if you go to mddems.org/run, you can add your name or you can send it to a friend. Or if you go to mddems.org/refer, you can directly refer a friend and we'll reach out and say, hey, someone thinks you'd be great to run for office. You should consider doing it. And we also need you to get involved in Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. New Jersey, gubernatorial election, Virginia, gubernatorial election, and also we need to flip the House there. And in Pennsylvania, you might not know this, but there is a Supreme Court race, one of the most important swing states. Right now, we have control of the Supreme Court. We need to maintain control of the Supreme Court so Donald Trump and his great band of merry men can't rig the next election in Pennsylvania. So we have ways to sign up. If you go to our Mobilize, we have opportunities in Virginia. You can phone bank in New Jersey, or you can actually go to Pennsylvania as well. So check our show notes. We'll have links everywhere in there. And then also get involved in the comptroller's race. We'll make sure that there's a link as well. So Comptroller Lierman, go ahead.
I'll just add, anybody who's thinking about running for office, reach out. I am happy to work with you too. I worked on campaigns for many years before running. I love campaigning. I think it's really important that we have somebody run in every seat to fill every seat. So I put myself out there. I'm happy to talk to anybody who is going to get in the race.
So we'll put contact information so someone can get you to Comptroller Lierman. We're not going to put her personal email address just to spare you some of the right-wing trolls. But we'll make sure that there's a way for you to get in touch with Comptroller Lierman as well. So, folks, thank you for tuning in to Burn the Talking Points. And we will see you next time. And hopefully go O's based on Comptroller Lierman's recommendations for how to get us to win now. So thank you so much.